Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Tam McManus are here with me on this Wednesday, and thank you very much for joining us on the programme on a regular basis. So many of you are subscribing to the channel, sharing our content and enjoying and consuming all our breaking football news right across all our social media channels. So thank you for joining us, and over and above that, we have lots of people listening on the podcast too. So sometimes you look and you see people just walking around the park, Ruffy, and you wonder, could be listening to the football show.
Yes, there's lots and lots, male and female. I saw a lot of them in the parks. You know, you don't know what they're listening to, but hopefully they're listening to us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic, Ruffy. I didn't really want to know that, but anyway, one of those little bits of information that just leaves you totally and utterly bemused. Okay, Tam's here. He's got the legs out, so there's no point in complaining, just in case. I know there's a few people who don't like the legs, and over and above that, there's a few people who don't like your comments, Ruffy, and don't like your opinion. You know how you've gone through that rough patch.
Aggressive since that wee health scare that I had. I've been very aggressive.
Yes, you have.
I'm not messing about with anybody now.
Well, I only wish, in my mind, I wish you'd a health scare 10 years ago. Could have helped us no end. Anyway, Kenny, who's a Dons fan, he comes from, I think he's in LA, so that rules us out staying there now. He says, Peter, it's an absolute disgrace from, as he says, Strathclyde Football Association. I do think VR would have looked at Shinnie's tackle if he was playing in an old firm game. The ref was right there and played on. He won the ball. He didn't go over the top. A total joke. I'm dying to hear Mr. Ruff's view, because he's got no idea what a tackle is. That's him being aggressive, by the way. The Rangers coach gets 6 games and Shinnie 4. No wonder they can't get decent sponsors. Real football players on other podcasts said it's out of order. Now I love that line, because that really puts you behind the 8 ball here. If you're a real football player, you'll agree with it on other podcasts. Imagine this happening to Callum McGregor. Not, says Kenny.
Well, first of all, I have to say to Kenny, I have put in a tackle before, but not on the football park.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the football now.
Yep.
And
over and above that, do you think it was a red card?
I think it was a fair enough challenge, but the follow through connected with the boy's leg, which could have been a nasty one. So for me, it was a red card.
Tam?
I think it was a red card as well. I think 10, 15, 20 years ago it would have been a great tackle, but I think the current do you know what I mean? But the current rules are changing with the height and the pace going into a tackle and the follow through. And with VAR, you know, if they have a look at that again, I think 99 times out of 100, whether you're in Spain or England or Portugal, Scotland, they're going to give that kind of tackle as a red card.
I was listening to that referee guy who's on Thingy.
Yeah.
What are the 3 definitives of the tackle? There's dangerous.
Yeah.
Reckless.
Yeah.
Is there another one? Is the reckless the red? Dangerous is the
endangering the opponent.
Yeah, no, it's just dangerous and
no, but
reckless.
I think speeds is what speeds.
See when you were listening to the guy, what did he say?
I think it was reckless as a red card.
Right.
Yellow card is dangerous. I would say that Shinnie challenge was reckless.
Yeah,
it's a red card.
I think the problem is, you know, there are people who say, well, he didn't mean it. That's irrelevant. I mean, I think all 3 of us are going to suffer the wrath of Kenny on this one. I thought it was a red card because, quite simply, he did win the ball, but it was that follow through that was dangerous to the player. It could have really...
His height, it was his shin, Peter, yeah. And if his leg's planted, you know, that's a broken leg, you know, so I didn't think he had to go in that high and that hard, to be honest. I think he could have won the ball. So as I said, listen, you can't just say I win the ball. If you could follow through and smash somebody and break the leg, you can't say, oh, well, I win the ball. No, that's not how it works now.
But you're right as well, it's the speed that you go in at and the distance
if you go flying into a tackle.
Yeah, and I think
James has put a wee bit of a little bit of spice in the mix on this when he says, Peter, would Aberdeen care if it wasn't Rangers next? I mean, were they trying to play the system by the appeal in the first place?
Well, maybe that's why he's got an extra game. Maybe the SFA have thought they're trying to pull a flanker here, but a lot of teams do that.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was playing, you know, I get sent off for Dunfermline against Inverness in the Premier League with a big game coming up the next week. Probably no chance of winning it, but they threw it in just to try and get me off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Play that game. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
You know, the clubs will try and bend the rules, so to speak, but I thought it was harsh to give them an extra game. I really do.
Brian says, Peter, Ruffy's been spending too much time with ex-referee Willie Young. Maybe that's your problem, Ruffy. You're just trying to side with everybody. Although Brian did say earlier on, Ruffy, come back, Adam, all is forgiven.
Well, I think it's good when we talk to referees because they tell us the rules, they tell us the way it is. A lot of the rules we don't know of the time, but Tom's right with that one. It's in the rules. If you make a frivolous appeal, you get another game. So it's up to you whether you decide to take that chance, and they've taken the chance and it hasn't worked for them.
Here's what Aberdeen have to say on the whole affair. Obviously they are not happy. We decided to appeal in the belief that it had merit and a chance of success. After watching the footage numerous times, listening to the various professional pundits on the matter and discussing it with the player and the manager, in setting out our appeal, we also reviewed similar tackles in the Scottish Premiership in the last 6 months, where at least 2 players have been who have unintentionally caught an opponent in the follow-through of a tackle and were red carded after VAR reviews, have had their bans overturned on appeal and their suspensions quashed. So obviously, from that point of view, that's why they put the appeal in. Each appeal is heard on its own merits, which means that no prior case appeal decisions are considered. The legal system for hundreds of years has used and relied upon prior cases as evidence. We believe that the omission of these key prior appeal findings will continue to affect consistency of decision making. Scottish FA rules prohibit us from commenting publicly on such decisions, but having been accused of presenting a frivolous appeal, our supporters need to know that this is not only insulting to the club, but grossly unfair and entirely untrue. To add a further match ban seems ridiculously harsh and unnecessary. We are publicly asking the SFA to urgently review our appeal with a new panel. Well, let's be honest about it. I mean, that's just a nonsense. Now, listen, by the way, the one thing about it doesn't matter if it was Aberdeen or any other clubs. Everybody writing to the SFA. Who cares if Who cares if we say it's a penalty? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if anybody in a radio station or a pundit on Sky Sports or a ref or whatever. The appeal panel look at it and say, is it a penalty? And they make their call, and that's it. If you're not happy with it, you can't suddenly say, well, change the jury, give me another jury. It doesn't work like that, Ruffy.
Oh, right. I mean, I'm sure if it was a letter that went into the SFA will have a wee bin, and it'll just be rolled up and thrown in that bin, because that's what's going to happen. You can't keep challenging because it doesn't go for you.
Yeah. Here's one from John Doherty. He says, good afternoon, gents from Portland, USA. Yeah. Might as well just say hello. We've been to Portland, so there's no real need for us to go back there and stay with John. But it's one that we haven't had on from Portland.
What's the MLS team called in Portland?
Timbers.
Oh, yeah, I think they actually cut a log if they win the game, don't they?
Yep.
Chris Boyd, I think, played for them.
Yeah, I've saw them before.
Oh,
that was one of the best ads, wasn't it? With Chris's advertising beds.
Yeah, I did see that. Wasn't one of his finer moments. Although, calm down, you two in last week's competition were just as wooden, I have to tell you, because Tom came in yesterday.
It was like Rowan de Villiers for
you two. Don't forget, you can win a golf day with us. Anyway, so Aberdeen are not happy. Give us your thoughts on it. I mean, listen, we all might as well steam in on this one. What about the quiz question? Let's throw that in as well, because this is a belter. Name the 2 managers in history who have recorded 100 Champions League wins, and possibly more. There's only 2 of them. Could be a third one tonight in Pep Guardiola, but there's 2 others. Have a wee think about it, and we'll give you the answer.
Guess them, no?
Not now, no. Have a wee think, and we'll give you the answer at the end of the programme. There's lots to talk about. Possible suitors for Ryan Kent. Rangers reveal another share issue. Saints players say they let Callum Davison down. We'll hear from our reporter Kerry Pollock, who was up there at McDermott Park today to hear from Stephen McLean and Stevie May. Cameron Carter-Vickers set to go under the knife after the Rangers game. And of course in the Champions League, well, Real did exactly what I thought they would do to Chelsea, the same as they did to Liverpool and Celtic. They just bided their time, raced up the park, scored the goal and dumped Chelsea out of the Champions League. And also AC Milan knocked Napoli out, Ruffy.
Yeah, I think Napoli was all the one the neutrals were wanting to see getting quite far because of the style of football they play. But I always thought when they come up against one of the big boys, they might just fall flat in their face, and unfortunately that's what happens. But a Milan semi-final will be absolutely incredible. It's 2 great semi-finals.
Yeah, it's looking as if it's going to be Inter AC. I watched the Napoli game last night. Napoli were unlucky. I think Napoli over the two legs were the better. AC Milan no care, but
Yeah.
I thought Napoli were
We'll talk
the
a wee
better
bit.
team.
We'll talk a wee bit more about that later on. But can I just say to you, the setup for Giroud's goal? What about the run?
Brilliant, great play, printing the plate for him after Giroud missed the penalty. But Napoli started the game unbelievable. The first 15-20 minutes, I thought, wow, they're going to battle them.
Was that the game you decided to watch?
I watched
that.
that. The Chelsea game was done. Chelsea Real Madrid was over.
I thought Chelsea
I watched
played
the
all
Napoli
okay.
game, but I just think AC Milan's our bogey team. Napoli's, I think, miles ahead of them in the league, but I don't think AC Milan have lost a game against them this season, so it's one of the things.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk Champions League. You can give us your thoughts. Who's going to win the Champions League? I think Alisson thought that maybe Napoli were going to win it. Well, that's another one gone. Do you think Paris Saint-Germain have got a chance, Rafi?
Next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Just need to spend a wee bit more money just to try and get more.
he's been going for Paris Saint-Germain for the last 6 or 7
Because
years.
there's about 500 billion, they're still not anywhere near it.
I've
Buffy.
dumped him.
You dumped him?
Dumped him. I'll
Okay.
find somebody else next year.
Now, can I just say to you, the players will all be voting for Player of the Year, and if you want to give us your thoughts on who you think it's going to be, by all means do so. But always in the summer you get to a point where some players that you've enjoyed watching, or that maybe just didn't live up to expectations, head for pastures new. Ryan Kent looks as if what the latest story is, Burnley are having a wee look at him. There'll be other clubs in there, because is he a good free, Ruffy?
He's a £7 million free. You know, I think when Rangers got him, as soon as they got him, they were putting out there he could be a £12 million player, you know, eventually. But for a free, yep, it'll be interesting to see if Rangers come out and say we are actively trying to keep a hold of him, because they'll have these clubs that you're talking about are interested in him, will be giving them big bucks.
I think that's gone though. I don't think there's any chance of him signing a deal with Rangers now.
No, but I would like to think that they would tell the Rangers supporters, look, we're trying our best. You know, they're not just going to let him leave and lose all that money without actually trying to tell the fans that we did try our best, and obviously he wants to go down south.
Well, they might have paid $7 million for him about 5 years ago, back in 2018. Give us your overall assessment, Tam, on whether he's been a success or a failure. 40 goals in 140 matches, 3 goals in 43 games this year against Kilmarnock, Celtic and Hearts, 10 assists this season. He only scored 3 goals last season.
I think if you're judging him purely on numbers, goals and assists, which a lot of people do now, you know, statisticians and whatever, I don't think he's been great, but I think he's a very, very good football player. It's a weird one, Peter, because sometimes I look at him and he looks electric, he gets by people and you get off your seat and then you get back in your seat quickly. It's one of the, I think he's one of the players, Peter, where he gets you off your seat and you're back in it within 2 seconds, because he'll hit the ball over the bar, he'll cross it and hit the first man. I think top end Championship, or maybe a club like Burnley getting promoted, is the peak of where he's going to get to. Take
the stats out of it. You're talking about you think he's a good player.
I think he is a really good player.
Has he been a consistently good player over the 5 years?
I think he started well at Rangers. I think you just said it there, but 6 goals in the last 2 seasons at Rangers, miles off it for a guy who's playing for Rangers, you know, and they're dominating most games every week. I don't think it's enough. Maybe Burnley or whoever it is in England will get a better tune out of him in terms of goals and assists, but he's going down to play against better players down there in the harder league, so it's not going to be as easy as it's been up here. So listen, I think the Rangers fans,
give us a mark out of 10 then.
7. He's a 7 out of 10 for me.
Wow, I think he's borderline 6. I don't think he wins games, Ruffy. He doesn't kill teams.
He doesn't turn up in big
He looks
games.
as if he's going to win games. He looks as if,
I'm saying, he flatters the deceiver
on a day, you make the first 5 or 10 minutes, you go, oh, here we go. A wee bit like, I think he's a better player than the guy I'm going to talk about.
Well, don't mention somebody who's a better player than him.
No, not a better player. Mickey Johnson. When Mickey Johnson comes on the park, I go, wow, here we go.
Yeah.
No, he's going to do something special. And I think Ryan Kent's the same. He'll have his day, and when he's on his day, he's good to watch. I mean, he is the kind of player, if you're a supporter, you want on the ball and you want to see him doing something special, and he would get you off your seat, but the consistency level's not there. I don't know the boy personally, but I think his problem is, I'm not saying he's a shy boy, but I don't think he oozes a confidence. He's no cocky like Tam.
There's no gallousness.
You know, there's no gallus. There's no, no, I'm Ryan Kent, I'm going to rip you to bits here. You know, I've got all the skill in the world. He seems to be the kind of player that if he's not playing well, he goes into a sort of a shell. Yeah. You know, and you don't
That's
get.
That's not good for a winger, is it?
No, I know. Some players are like that. Yeah. You know, when they're hot, they're hot. When they're not, they're off the park.
Yeah, I look at him and I think, you know, and a lot of people are saying 5 out of 10. There's nothing against the boy. I just think I just think, like you, if he's got the talent, you've got to be told. Even if you're an arm round the shoulder,
fulfilling his potential.
You've got to turn around. The manager's got to say to him, "Listen, by the way, you are a match winner. You potentially, if the skill that you've got to be able to either get to the byline and find the cross, or if you are cutting in, you must hit the target." And more often than not, he'll cut in from the left, onto his right, boom, it's over the top of the bar. He did that in one of the previous Old Firm games, and you could actually just hang your hat on it. Whereas I think it's like Andy Robertson when he wasn't getting in the Liverpool side when he first moved there, and he said, he went to Jurgen Klopp, chapped the door and says, "Look, what do I have to do to get into this team? And what do I have to do to stay in this team?" And Jurgen Klopp just basically said, "Your crossing, your delivery, your keeping possession must be better at this level." And he stayed behind and practiced. And you know, nobody is beyond learning and putting the hours in.
Listen, I think he's 26. You know, he should be coming at the peak years of his career. You know, I think 26, 27, 28, you're at your peak. So he's coming into those peak years of his career, but his end product's got to be better. You know, he, as I said to you, he'll go buy 3 or 4 players and you think, wow. And then he'll hit the first man, and it must be really frustrating for Rangers fans going to Ibrox, you know. And he has produced it in some big. He scored a few goals against Celtic in big games, but he doesn't do it enough for the level of ability he's got.
I think he may have scored 2.
I think he scored more than that. I think he scored a few at Parkhead. I think that for the level of ability he's got and talent, he should be in the top 3 or 4 player a year every season. And he's not been. I think he's a really good player.
I don't think he scored any more than 2 against Celtic.
I can remember one.
I can't see a few. He scored 2-2. He scored in the 2-2 game.
I think he scored 2 at Parkhead. I don't know if he scored at Ibrox or semi-finals or whatever. Yeah. Somebody can tell us on the feed.
Okay.
It would be interesting. What would be interesting,
Ruffy?
What would be interesting is in the time that he's been here, how many times has he been Rangers Player of the Year by the supporters? How many awards has he picked? I know there's lots of.
Well, he's been overshadowed by and outshone by guys like Morelos when Morelos was thinner.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about. He should be outshining them.
Yeah, I know.
Because of the ability he's got.
I think he's a bit like if you said to me in that whole Rangers squad, who do you think's the best? Who do you think's the best player in the Rangers squad? Most talented player? I'd say Ryan Kent every day of the week.
Yeah,
every day of the week. But he doesn't do it every week. So that's why he's not going to. That's why he's maybe going to a Burnley or a Sheffield United, and he's not going to a Spurs, you know, or maybe an Aston Villa, somebody like that. That's why he's going to them.
Okay. Well, he scored. I'm just looking here, Tam, just to try and quickly, get the stats on this. He scored in the 2-2 game. That was this season. Okay. And then from there, I'm looking and he's. Nope. I mean, that's me back in season 2021, and then I can go to 1920 and see if he got a goal against Celtic in that one as well. And as I look through, he scored in a 2-1 win at Celtic Park. I think that was in December. That was the Steven Gerrard one. You remember when Steven Gerrard was into the camera? So there's 2 that he scored against him, and then we have to go back 2018. 2019, and this is the last one where he was actually a Rangers player. And I'm looking, Tam, and I'm saying to myself, he scored 3 goals. 3 goals. Is that a few in 5 years? Is that a few?
Well, he still scored. That's what I'm saying. He still scored in big. He scored in 3 Old Firm games.
Yeah.
So I think that's okay. For a wide man. But as I said to you, he's got to be scoring 6 or 7 against Celtic. He's got to be influencing the game more with the level of ability he's got, and that's why, as I said to you, that's why he's possibly going to a Burnley and not a Spurs or somebody like that, who are a far bigger team.
Yeah, okay. Rangers have issued for the 3rd time actually 3 million shares again, and that's been taken up. It's a strange situation that obviously, John Bennett will have a strategy. I think financially he'll certainly be looking and saying to himself, I think the key for Rangers this summer is investment, Ruffy. I think that's the biggest job at Ibrox for John Bennett, is quite simply to look and say, okay, Douglas Park's done his part in that remit of stop 10 in a row. Europa League was a bonus, Scottish Cup, nice to win it. But I think John Bennett's job is undoubtedly to look and say, surely there needs to be an investment from somewhere, rather than Michael Beale working on a tight budget and hoping that every one of his signings hits the ground running.
Yeah, well, that looks as if, you know, the shares being made available are being made available to people who have loans, and maybe they're turning that in, you know, to whatever you call it, and you know, it means that these people are not getting their money back.
Yeah,
they're getting shares.
They're getting more shares.
They're getting shares. So
it's 25 pence a share.
So what's happening is that instead of, just pick a figure, instead of repaying £7 million worth of loans, what they're doing is saying to these people, look, could you turn it into shares? And that's the value that you're getting.
Yeah.
And if the Rangers supporters will probably do that, which means you'll get money in the bank that the manager can use to actually go and get players.
Yeah, and it's a big summer for them.
It certainly is. You know,
look at the players.
We're all going to
Jack,
start. Yeah.
Morelos, Davis, McGregor, Hilander. Don't think Hilander will be back anywhere soon. Arfield, Tillman might go back to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Would they spend $5 million on him? We've debated all this ad nauseum. We're about to find out very shortly at the end of this next month.
Yeah, we certainly are, and I'm sure the Rangers supporters have their ideas of who they want to stay and who they want to go. Everybody will have a case. Everybody will. I think the disappointing thing for the Rangers supporters are the ones that are complaining are the money that the club's lost with Morelos and Kent. You know, we had them up at, I don't know what the highest figure we had for Morelos. We up at 15. And then there's, say, 10 for Kent. £25 million have just walked out the door. You know, if they had been handled a lot better, you know, and took the value of the word when they were, particularly Morelos was scoring goals for fun in Europe, you know, that's an awful lot of money for a club.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter about this overall share issue, because the key point for me, Tam, in getting Rangers money and enough money for Michael Beale to do what he wants to do to transform the side, it's the fans. The fans always bail out Rangers, and the season ticket money will be oh so important to that.
Yeah, well, be listening with the obviously season tickets, you know, 50,000 there. You know, that's a lot of money going into the coffers. But Rangers' recruitment this summer's got to be very good. I think he's going to sign 7 or 8 players. I think he's talking today in the press saying he's 5 players away from where he wants to be. I think he's maybe a few more than that, Peter. I think he's maybe a few more than that. I think that, you know, you mentioned the guys there that are out of contract, you know, and you're struggling to see any of them would play every week for Rangers. You know, Boy Tillman, who when he's hot, he's very, very good. 5 million is a lot of money for Rangers. When you're trying to raise money and you think 5 million, you have got to be absolute top notch. You've got to be the best player in the team at Rangers for £5 million. So I think he's got a big summer ahead, and Rangers need to spend. They need to spend money. Now, whether that's raising money with shares or fans or whatever, he needs a big budget, because I think Celtic will strengthen. I think Celtic, Ange Postecoglou, think there's 2 or 3 positions where we can get better. Yeah. And that's a frightening thought when you look at what they've done this season in terms of domestically. If they can get strengthen another 3 or 4 positions, you think, well, who's going to beat them next season?
He's already, and as I mentioned to you yesterday on the show, he's already, looking at making sure that whoever walks out the door, whoever's coming in, is making them stronger. And for anyone who thinks that they are not going to sign 2 or 3 players, and quickly and early, because that is the way he goes about his business now. For Rangers, for me, Ruffy, I think the whole spine of the team needs to be bought.
Yeah, but I keep looking at their defence and I'm looking at their midfield. You know, they've got players in there, but it's better quality, you know, and you've got to decide what are you actually going for next year. Are you going for just to beat Celtic, or are you going for some kind of run in Europe, and that'll determine what kind of players he goes for?
No, he's got to just beat Celtic.
Yeah. Well, that'll determine the players that'll come in, and he's already said, I've got a budget here, and I can identify budget players. So it depends where these budget players are coming from, and are they not paying any money at all, or just identifying somebody who's going to come up and enhance their wages, you know. But I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to have as Ange is trying to do, is have a 3 and 4 year package. I think you'll see players that are coming in who are going to serve the club well for 2 or 3 years, rather than just a loan coming in and handing them back again or whatever. But for me, it's the injury thing. He keeps talking about the injury thing all the time. I am not going to bring somebody to this club who's only going to play half a season.
Yeah.
That's a big one for the players that will be coming in. He'll be doing some kind of research, and just say there's a player who plays with West Brom. He'll have a CV in the last 3 years of that guy, and if he's only played half a season every game, he's not going to come to Rangers.
Well, if anything, I think the Rangers fans had their targets that they thought were culpable for where they find themselves as far as players that haven't contributed. One of them was Ross Wilson. The other one they're not happy with is Stuart Robertson. So, they've got one half out. Now they'll just be looking and saying to themselves, okay, the manager says he's going to look at certain players. He's been out about. He's going to be looking them in the eye. He's going to be able to assess whether they've got the quality to play for Rangers. So the buck stops with the manager this year, and this is where I think it's huge for him. He's got to get these players and say, right, you're in and you're starting.
Yeah, I think it increases the pressure on the manager, Peter. I think that sometimes Ross Wilson will get in the neck for players, and it's maybe Michael Beale that said to him, listen, I want to sign him, but Ross Wilson's head of recruitment, he goes out and does the deal, whatever. Ross Wilson's head's on the signings. I think now when you look at it, Michael Beale is basically saying, this summer I'm going to be signing the players. I'm signing the players. So if they come in, they don't hit the ground running, bang, straight to the manager. It's not the director of football, whoever, the board. You signed them, so it's on your head. So no, I think the Rangers do need to try and get that director of football role filled. I think it's a big job for a manager nowadays at a big club like Rangers to do all that as well. Take the training, pick the team, then you're going out and signing players and meeting players and dealing with agents. I think you need that director of football in there, and Rangers need it quickly. But I think this summer, I think that Michael Beale, from now until June, July, he's going to be signing the players.
I would hazard a guess that the players he'll be bringing will be players for the English Championship. Since he's been at Queen's Park Rangers, he's probably identified players for other teams in that league, and I think that's the kind of quality, And we saw the boy who's come up who looks reasonably okay, Campbell for the Championship. So, it'd be interesting to see. I think the first 2 or 3 players that he brings in will have to whet the appetite of the Rangers supporters.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's Celtic and Rangers for you. Obviously, Celtic have got a job to just try and add to an already a big squad full of quality. There are some players that I think we've all kind of talked about that could be heading out there. One of them is Lila Bada. That won't go away. I mean, there's more than a few looking at him too. McCarthy. I think maybe Stephen Welsh will look for full-time football. I even think maybe, I wonder about James Forrest. I think James Forrest has got a lot to offer, but I don't think he's Ange's cup of tea.
No, and it's whether James Forrest wants to finish his career at Celtic. I think he'll have the opportunity to do that at Celtic, but he's not going to play every week. I think if he's happy to be a once every 4 or 5 games player and just see his career out at Celtic and just be a one club man, then I think he'll stay at Celtic. If he wants to go out and play, if he still thinks he's got something to offer, an Aberdeen, a Hibs, somebody like that, I think would bin for him. I think he would play for them. But Lila Bada seems to be, it's another Giacomakis situation for me. It's a guy you brought in and you've maybe gotten on reasonably low money. I'm sure the boy Abada is earning big money, and he's done really well. And his agent's going into Celtic and going, listen, there's his numbers. He's scoring double figures every year. You want a better deal. And maybe Ange is, I don't think Ange is somebody to be dictated to. I think Ange will make the decision that he deserves a new deal, go and speak to his agent rather than the agent coming in and going, listen, he should get a new deal. I think that's what happened with Giacomakis. And I think Ange went, you know what, see you later. I won't sign somebody else.
It's everything like I mentioned over the last 6 months, Ruffy. There is a split in the camp where basically Ange Postecoglou looks at the season and says, first half of the season, I'll assess it. Celtic fans become critical if it doesn't go according to plan in Europe. But I think they were all very positive about the way they went about their business, but didn't get the results. So Ange Postecoglou would not in any way be negative towards the players in a press conference, but he absolutely will look and go, I can improve you as a player, but you're not good enough, and I need to get this style of player to come in to enhance it for this assault on the Champions League. And that's where I think he's building for, which is slightly different from the Michael Beale approach.
Well, I'm sure the Celtic supporters will be looking at what he has brought in, and if he thinks he knows players that are out there are better than what he's brought in, then that's an encouragement situation, because we didn't know anything about Maeda, we didn't know anything about Kyogo, we didn't know anything about Hatate, and if he thinks there's other players out there that he can identify that are possibly better than him, then obviously that's good. But he's done particularly well, and all the people he's brought in So it'll be interesting, to see which players that he thinks he can make the team better with.
Okay, some players, after a manager is sacked, come out and say they let the manager down. I wonder if that's the case at St Johnstone. Let's find out from our reporter Kerry Pollock.
St Johnstone take on Hibs this weekend here at McDermott Park, and after parting ways with Callum Davidson, it'll be Stephen McLean that steers the ship this Saturday. The interim boss says that his players take full responsibility for what's happened, but also reminded them that they have the remainder of the season to play for their futures.
I think when a manager loses his job, it's always the case that there'll be players that haven't been playing, and they'll think, well, I've maybe got an opportunity playing, and then there'll be players that have played, and I would imagine they'll be thinking that they've let them down. So ultimately, when I spoke to them, players have got a decision to make. They've got futures themselves, they've got contracts to play for. So ultimately, if you're playing well as a player, you'll get a new deal or you'll get a move somewhere else. If you're not, then it's not looking good for you. So they've got to take responsibility as well, and I think they've done that this week.
Stevie May also spoke ahead of this weekend's tie and says that the 4-point gap they have at the minute gives them confidence from falling into the bottom three, but knows all too well not to take that for granted.
I mean, it gives us the confidence, the fact that if we can do what we want to do and pick up points, then it kind of increases that gap. But the gap was bigger a few weeks ago, so we know it can slip away if we don't do things right and don't pick up points. So it's a bit of both. As I say, we've been in worse position last year, so we have got the experience of that, and we don't want to be down there again.
Hibernian need a win this weekend to land a place in the top six, but Stephen McLean says his side are ready for whatever Lee Johnson's team throw at them this weekend. It all takes place here in Perth. Kick-off is at 3 o'clock.
Really looking forward to it. There's a few tasty games for us to savour this Saturday, Tam, isn't there?
There is. I think it's always great when you go down to the last game before the window and there's something to play for. I think that you look at particularly that race for the top six. I think obviously Hibs need to win, I think. A draw would maybe be enough, but Dundee playing Livingston, but there's some tasty games in there. St Mirren playing Kilmarnock, Hearts Ross County, so there's a lot to play for, and I think that's a great thing about the split and the playoffs at relegation. You've always got something to play for, and I think it's great. And listen, Hibs will get a tough game up there.
Yeah, Hearts against Ross County, Celtic against Motherwell, Dundee United against Livingston, St Johnstone Hibs that Tam was talking about, St Mirren against Kilmarnock, and Aberdeen against Rangers. Obviously, every point brings money. That's what most managers will tell you. But at the bottom end of it, every point brings fear, Ruffy, because there's only Ross County on 27, Kilmarnock on 28, Dundee United on 28. And there's just a little cushion from St Johnstone of 32, which I think might just be enough of a cushion that they could get away with it. Yeah, well, we're all waiting in a split. We're all waiting to see, who's got that 3 games at home and 2 away, and certain teams will hope they're getting the advantage of the home games, and I'm bringing Kilmarnock into that situation, because if they get 3 away games, there's no form away from home. So you would start doubting that they're going to do it. But find out on Monday, Ruffy. Yes, and I think the team, there's obviously one team going to drop out, but the other teams, if they're showing no form whatsoever, if they're not winning games and they end up in the second bottom, I would think certain teams in the Championship will fancy their chances. I think this year there could be 2 Premier teams going into the Championship. Yeah? If they go into the playoffs without any form at all. I don't. They're losing games. I totally disagree. Yeah? Totally disagree. That's the joy of this programme. I totally disagree. I don't think there's enough quality in your maybe a Thistle or an Inverness to beat them. Not only that, it's the games they've got to play. I think it's all stacked in the Premiership team's favour. Can Queen's Park do it? No, not for me. I would fancy a Kilmarnock or a Ross County all day if they had to play. And you maybe play against a team that's already played 4 games. Yeah, they're knackered, and it's all stacked in the very, very early. And do you see that now? Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's still a wee bit of golf, and maybe not hang with that in terms of results and cup games and all that. But I think there's still a golf. If they go into a 5-game split and they don't win any of them, and then they go to play somebody, you fear for them. I fear for their confidence. I feel for it, because whoever it is, the whole support's going to turn against them, and the pressure is on the Premier team. I know what Tam's saying. There hasn't been a 3rd or a 4th for the Championship going up there, but I think the second team, whoever they are, if they're on the back of winning 4 games, like Inverness are showing out. Inverness are capable. Inverness played St Johnstone last year in the playoffs, and St Johnstone hammered them. Yeah. So
I don't see it. Could be wrong.
Yeah, could be wrong. I mean, it's actually starting to look really tasty because we're talking about Inverness. They won last night against Hamilton.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. They're on a confident run now. They've got all the players back for injury.
7 wins out of the last 8 in the league.
Yeah, and every team in that championship has done that. Partick Thistle have done it, Queen's Park have done it, Dundee have done it, and most of the other teams have done it and all. But every one of these teams have had 6 games when they've not won a game.
Yeah.
You know, so it
Were you
depends.
surprised at Falkirk?
Falkirk.
When they were playing last night, they lost as well?
No, I don't think so. You know, I think they'll be disappointed they lost the game. You know, I don't think anybody saw that coming. And we spoke about it the other night there. Falkirk and Dunfermline would enhance that championship. No.
Yeah.
The finance for they two coming in, and they're demanding crowds of £4,000 to £5,000, whereas I don't know what Ross County's average crowd is without Rangers and Celtic, or what Livingston's average crowd is without Rangers and Celtic. But they two certainly would make the coffers in the championship a lot better.
I think Falkirk in a wee bit of limbo at the minute, Peter. They're in the playoffs and they've got a semi-final coming up and they've got these games. They can't win the league.
Yeah.
I just maybe they've just dropped the intensity a wee bit.
But if you look at it, when I look at the teams that are in the Premiership, I see Ross County and Kilmarnock. I think something's happened at Dundee United to give them a spark and a bit of fight. So I can only see Ross County and Kilmarnock being the two in the mix. In the Championship, I agree with you. I can't see anybody taking the second bottom place of the Premier League side. But next season's Championship is going to be absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to be fantastic.
Yep,
There's so many big teams that you would consider Premier teams.
Yeah, and listen, I would hope that Falkirk would come up as well. I think that Falkirk will possibly play Hamilton Accies or Cove Rangers. I think that's the two bottom at the minute, and I would fancy Falkirk against either of them. Maybe even if it's Airdrie. Airdrie have shown great form this season. I think one of they two. So no, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that you get a Falkirk and Dunfermline back in the Championship, and Dundee have not won the league yet either, and Dundee United are still in the mix. So you're right, that Championship could be a humdinger. Yeah,
I'm looking at the date right now, Ruffy. We've already had one question answered with the Rangers Celtic match in the league, and now we're not too far away from everybody starting to look at the semi-finals. We already know Falkirk, Inverness, Celtic, Rangers. I see today some of the news headlines saying Cameron Carter-Vickers is going to get an operation, but after the semi-final. This next couple of weeks really is season defining, isn't it? You'll get everybody handing back the votes. You'll get an assessment of whether Rangers are going to have a trophyless season or it's Celtic for a treble. And then, of course, this weekend we're going to get a determination of who's top 6, who's bottom 6. Just out of curiosity on that, Ruffy, what's your final 6?
Final
at the top. Yeah, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen,
Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen,
Hearts,
Hibs and Hearts, and I hope St Mirren.
Yeah. Why, have you got a soft spot for them?
No, I think they've done well. I think they've done well with the restrictions they've had. I think at the beginning of the season he had to let a few players go, and he's obviously been talking about his budget, and it's very, very difficult. So I think they've been good.
Isn't it amazing that David Martindale is just replicating what happened last season again?
Yeah, he is.
It's just down to the last.
Unfortunately for Livingston, they've hit a bad patch at the wrong time. I think they started the season incredibly well. They went into that World Cup break. I think they were sitting in 4th. I think Hearts were 3rd and Livingston were 4th. And Livingston were, in the mix for 3rd place. They've had a terrible run over the last, ever since they lost that game in the Scottish Cup to Inverness. They have went a downward spiral. They have been terrible for the last maybe 6-7 games, and that could cost them.
I don't think it's helped with them talking about who's not going to be there next year. No players that are leaving.
Yeah,
but Davey's been quite honest and up front with that. He's saying to the boy, Nibble will not be here, but he can play for Celtic Rangers.
But you know why he's doing that, Ruffy? He's got to get money in.
He's got to try and get a transfer fee for them.
Nibbly's got 1 year left, so he's going to try that. He knows Nicky Devlin's off skate. He knows Fitzwater as well. So he's looking and saying to himself, how can I generate money? And remember, this is a club who openly tell you the wage, the actual energy bill is not paid by any fans coming through the door. It's subsidised, so that's exactly where they're at. Any additional money for to get the likes of Nubly will help them 1 year, 2 year. I mean, this is why this weekend is so crucial. If David Martindale pulls Livingston into the top 6 this weekend, you know, he deserves
If he
recognition.
pulls him into the top 6, he's going to have money to get 3 or 4 players.
And equally so Stephen Robinson, because I don't know if you remember, Ruffy, about 3 or 4 months ago, Stephen Robinson just said, I've been told to cut the bill. You know, so
I think they lost 1 million or 1.5 million in the last figures that they showed. So you're right. I think plus you're getting the games against Celtic Rangers, you might get you're getting that money plus your league positions. And you're right, that can be the difference between having another 300-400 grand in your budget.
Yeah,
you know, which might be another 3 or 4 players.
We've mentioned the players that might be coming, might be staying. Players will undoubtedly leave their clubs. Do you think Nisbet's one of them in the summer?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. He's Ofsky. I think that I think his agent will be working hard now. I suppose there was a lot of clubs watching him at the weekend. Played well against Hearts. Great time to have a good game. You know, live on the TV as well. So no, I think he'll be away.
Yeah, okay, interesting stuff. Thanks to so many of you who are joining us on a regular basis and enjoying the football content. There's so much more that you can get on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, because not only do we have the one-to-one with Alex McLeish in there talking about the run to Gothenburg, it's the 40th anniversary this year, and it's well worth you watching Alec in fine form reflecting on the great days with Sir Alex Ferguson and some crazy teammates who were all ultimately talented and good enough to beat Real Madrid in the final.
We're up a level again, Real Madrid in the final, but the teams previously then they were sticky, you know.
Apart from Watershai
was the brilliant home performance, 5-1, and I remember Sir Alex used to invite the old pensioners in to watch training and stuff and bring them in the back. There was a wee room at the back where he gave them tea and that, and one of them was waiting on me the day after the 5-1, and he said, that away goal could be dodgy. You know?
I mean, they didn't have to worry, Ruffy. That was some team. I mean, we did a one-to-one with John McMaster as well. We brought in all his medals. I'm so happy that some of the players, Dougie Bell, obviously Teddy Scott's family will have a medal for the Cup Winners' Cup, and Sir Alex himself.
Yeah, we when I was at Hibs, we got the final of the League Cup, and we got hit with that Aberdeen side, Eric Black and Starkey and all them. You know, they were a fantastic side from back to front. You know, great players, all working for each other, and it's not until you hear the stories about the demands that Alex Ferguson used to put on them.
Yeah,
you know, and there was a game, wasn't there? They won a final, and he wasn't happy with the way they played.
Yeah, I did mention that to him the other day there, and he wasn't happy. He's going like that to me. Don't mention it, because Alex McLeish was there, and I says, "There's Alec who single-handedly won the cup final because I think he slaughtered the rest of the team." That was his demands, you know. Even when you win against Rangers in a cup final, and that was after they'd won the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know. But what a gifted team, and of course people talk about it, and sometimes I think there's a danger, Tam, when we have one-to-ones like that, especially reflecting, and I think we should, celebrate anniversaries with great teams, you know, Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Dundee United, when they achieve something in Europe, because quite simply, a lot of people say, "Oh, you're just of a certain age, you're just saying it was better in those days." But the players were technically better, I think. The Scottish players, anyway, were technically better.
Yeah, listen, the game's moved on. I think you could get away with being a technical player back then and not having to do the hard yards or whatever. I think now a lot is fitness and strength and physicality, and it probably annoys a lot of older people who watched it on 90 or an Aberdeen back then with the flair players that they had. I just don't think you can. There's not a lot of teams play with that now. It's all kind of rigid and formations and all that. So, yeah, I don't think it's particularly better to watch. But I think the game has moved on, and it's now a lot of power and speed.
It's a good point you make, actually, because I was thinking about it, and I think the Aberdeen team of 1983, Ruffy, and you bear in mind the Aberdeen team now that's winning games under Barry Robson, I think the 1983 team under Ferguson, with all those technical players he's talking about, maybe not the physicality, I think that 1983 team might just beat this Aberdeen side 9-0. Maybe 8-0.
Yeah, well, as I said, I think they beat us in the League Cup in 83 or 84, and they actually hammered us, in the cup final. That obviously we
Kennedy,
got
Rooney, Miller, McLeish, Strachan, the likes of Dougie Bell, Peter Weir, I give you,
Sure.
McGee.
McGee.
I mean, honestly.
Trent, Eric Black.
Yeah, Eric Black.
Yeah.
Wonderful players.
Yeah, super team.
It really is a great one-to-one to watch. If you're an Aberdeen fan, to wallow in it. I've got 2 of them so far. Got a special one-to-one coming next week that I think you're going to enjoy as well. There's lots of anniversaries kicking about, so keep it locked to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and you can enjoy some of the other content we have as well. It's always good, Tam. We're going to start quite a few of these, and I think you're going to enjoy this as well. We put the Livingston players through the mill with a little challenge, which is on YouTube, and obviously we threw in Adam, who is the finest player ever in his own mind. It didn't quite go according to plan in the challenge.
Well, here we are at Livingston, the PLZ Challenge, and I'm delighted to say the cream of Livingston Football Club is here to try and beat Ali Crawford's record of 7.4 seconds. And of course, Shyness from PLZ, the greatest footballer never to be signed by anyone, Adam Binney, is going to show the lads what to do. Oh my God! That's on camera! That is fantastic! Oh, that is brilliant! That's made my day!
Here! He's running about with a cone in his boot! He looks like one of the dogs with a lampshade on!
By the way, there's nothing worse, Ruffy, if you set yourself up for a challenge.
Particularly with all the professionals standing watching you. It must have been a horrendous moment. But he did score, didn't he, in one of them?
He did score in one, but he didn't score within the time that you really needed, you know. But it was a great day out. I think we've got to get a few challenges for you guys. I've got a couple in mind actually that I think will be a right good one, especially in the summer.
That one's kind of pace. You know, I've not got the pace
well, it's
anymore.
speed, skill, and strike, isn't it? You could finish well.
Strike and skill's fine. Speed, maybe toiling now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're honest about it, Tam, which is probably why I was holding the mic and just presenting it. But Adam, at least you had a right go at it. You can watch that and see how it turns out with all the other Livingston players, but well worthy of it. If we're talking about technique, skill, the lot, they had it in abundance. I've had the good fortune to see them up close with yourself, Ruffy, home and away, when Real Madrid just started to go through the gears. And then, of course, I watched them down at Anfield, went down there to see them dismantle Liverpool, and the same happened last night against Chelsea. Some of their players, I mean, Vinicius Junior is, for me, now going to be the emerging talent.
Yeah, I said that the last time we saw him. You know, I thought he was absolutely tremendous, and we keep talking about it. You want these players to be on the ball all the time, and any time he gets it, there's something special going to happen. But you're right, they're so comfortable on the ball, every one of them, even the defence, I'll just give me the ball and I'll just find somebody and I'll wait until an opening comes, and they wait until an opening comes, and generally when that opening comes, it's usually a goal.
Yeah, I thought Chelsea, actually, to their credit, played well last night.
They played the chances.
They moved the ball about really well and started to move it quicker. Couldn't take their chances, and you're actually turning around and saying to yourself, wait a minute, this team, he spent, in the last 4 or 5 months, he spent hundreds of millions of pounds, Ted Boley. But regardless of that, they just couldn't finish.
I think they're going to click soon.
Think so?
I've seen them. I think over the 2 games against Real Madrid, they were every bit as good as Real Madrid at times. But as you said, they've not the killers in the box, the Benzemas and guys like that, Vinicius. But I think they're going to click. I watched a wee bit of the game. I was watching the Napoli game mostly, but I was flicking back and forward, and I thought at times they looked decent. I've seen the highlights as well, so I think they'll give somebody a tanking soon, Chelsea.
Yeah, Frank Lampard, whether he'll be there or not is another matter.
The reality is, this club's going to be back, and it will take work, and it will take maybe a bit of process, and I think the fans appreciated the performance today, and maybe this season they've had moments where they're not feeling like that, so we have to latch on to that. Get results for the end of the season, get performance for the end of the season, and then go again next year.
Yeah, I think they are at this moment looking at other options for the summer. But Frank Lampard, if he can get a trick out of them, he's still trying and get them firing on all cylinders. He's got an unbelievable squad to pick from. Here's the scores so far. The results actually from the two matches last night. Napoli 1, AC Milan 1, which means AC Milan are through. Chelsea 0, Real Madrid 2. Inter Milan against Benfica. It's 2-0 from the first leg, and I think Inter will be facing AC. Now, Bayern Munich Man City, it's 3-0 to Man City at the moment, Ruffy. Is there a shock on the cards in the Allianz Arena? Are we about to witness one of those mega games?
Was there not a year that it was a mega game? Was there no...
PSG v Barca?
No,
Yeah.
no,
Remember that one I texted you,
no, it was
Ruffy?
Bayern. It was Bayern, and I think it was maybe Chelsea that there was a 3-0 lead, and Bayern turned it over in the second leg. I don't think they'll do it this time. I don't think they'll get the players they used to have to win this kind of game. And obviously, Man City taking Haaland off with 25 minutes to go at the weekend, they know that he's the main guy, and one goal, and that's it for me.
Yeah, Thomas Tuchel, I think, is well aware of how difficult this challenge is for Bayern Munich.
It's a huge mountain to climb, as you say. And that's why we need to be, we need to believe. Of course, we believe in ourselves, but we don't want to be dreamers. Dreaming is like, for me, always like, it's very close to sleeping. And if you cannot do one thing, you cannot sleep for 1 second. So we need to believe.
Yeah, I mean, he was a good manager. I mean, that just shows you that...
Well, look where Chelsea are now. He got them a Champions League final. Won the Champions League with them. And they're not going to be in the Champions League this year. They're not even in Europe this year. So, big mistake to sack that guy. And I think he's a top manager, but they're not going to get through against Man City.
No, it's going to be, if that's the game you're going to watch, it's definitely that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the other game's done. Benfica Inter, 2-0 away from home. But there's so many good players in both teams in it. A wee early goal for Bayern Munich, first 10-15 minutes. And,
yeah, would you have a bit of that, Ruffy?
No, I think they're good enough now to see out Man City.
Ruffy will be watching a documentary or something.
Yeah, you'll be watching. Yeah, you're going through a strange. What was the programme that you were going to watch?
Are you watching? Told me to watch it.
Are you watching that the programme that you told Tam and I about at the start of the programme? You said you were going to watch it.
That remote thing, the documentary.
The one about people are scared in a scary house.
Oh, no, certainly not.
What's it called, Ruffy?
No.
What's it called? What's it called?
Something in the dark.
Yeah, are you scared of the dark?
Are you scared of the dark? Is that
is that what the things?
Well, I wouldn't like to be in a room
tell me,
dark.
you seen it advertised. What was the advertisement?
It was just they're all in the room and somebody
went, ooh.
Somebody went, boo.
I don't think I'll be watching that. I mean, I'm definitely going Bayern. I'm definitely going Bayern Munich against Man City to see how it all pans out. You can give us your thoughts on it as well as we approach this week. Don't forget, across all our social media, now is the time to just suck up quite a lot of the words of the managers, because the managers and players are going to be saying all sorts of things about what's going to happen over the weekend, because it's down to the wire before we find out who everybody's playing. And of course, on Monday, Tam, we'll all be sitting here and there'll be people going absolutely ballistic because they haven't got those home games, the 19 home games they're looking for.
I think, when can Celtic win it? Is it the second game in the split?
No, it's the 6th. The 6th of May, it's the first game.
So the first game in the split, and a lot of Celtic fans are obviously wanting Rangers at Ibrox or whatever. I think it's Rangers at Ibrox.
Yeah, that won't happen.
Not going to happen.
That won't happen. Coronation Day, won't it?
It is Coronation Day as well, which I think has annoyed a few people along the way. But listen, it's football. You play whenever you're told, and you get on with it. And I think Celtic will be absolutely wanting to try and get it done and dusted as quickly as possible, and then possibly.
Celtic's got one game left, in the season, really.
Yeah.
The semi-final. If they win that, they win the treble, and then they can play the B team, the rest of the league games. The league will be won, but they've got one more game left, and that's why Cameron Carter-Vickers is going under the knife probably the day after that game, because it's now a one-game season for both teams, really. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be talking about that. And of course, not only that, but make sure you download the PLZ Soccer app. You can actually watch the show live on there. You can get all sorts of features and breaking football news at your fingertips. And over and above that, if you go on the website, there are regular updates and stories. All our video content on plzsoccer.com. But download the
YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell as well, and you'll get all the notifications of when we're offering you new content. And thank you to so many of you for actually sending us messages. And Ruffy, I got a lovely message this morning from Barry Smith, the former Dundee manager.
Played with Barry, Dundee.
Yeah, he's out. He's out.
He's at York in Canada.
Yeah, he's out coaching over there, and he said the only thing he says that's really, really strange about the whole thing is quite simply the flights to go to games. It's 3 hours on a plane sometimes, but great to see him doing well.
Yep, I played with Barry, a great guy by the way, really, really good guy, good person. Good to see him back coaching. He's in Toronto. I was actually going to go to one of his games. It just didn't work out, and I was in Canada last summer. I was going to go to one of his games. I was going to send him a message, but great. I think, who's the boy? Steve Nash, the basketball player. His brother Martin's the manager of that team. I think it's York United. I think is a club. It's a Toronto team, but they're in the Canadian League. So brilliant, great for Barry. You know, if you're over there and you're doing well, Canada, nobody want to come back here. It's a great way of life.
Yeah, well, when he's back in November, Ruffy, he's going to come into the studio, so it's well worthy of listening to his story out there. I always like to see any Scottish player or manager doing well when they go abroad. Do you?
Yeah, I think it's happening more and more now. I think a lot of players who are not making it here have decided they're going to go far and wide, and why not? If you're young, you know, just experience all different levels.
And it's lucky because Tam played in America. I don't know if you're aware of that. He's able to look at the Canadian League as well and tell us about things like that. That's why he's here, Ruffy.
Yeah.
He gives us that North American, slant on things. Although by the looks of our YouTube and our Facebook and our Twitter at the moment, I don't think Tam will be. I don't think Tam was going to get any Celtic gigs soon. They are absolutely caning him for last.
The league's only rubbish now because Rangers are not doing well. When was I saying that when Rangers are winning 9-0? Didn't I say the league was crap?
You're getting battered, aren't you?
I am getting slaughtered, but you've got to have an opinion.
Hey.
And in my opinion, I don't think the league's great at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Celtic.
Yep, you've got to offer an opinion. You'll get it on here. Get a bit of banter. Special guest James McPake was in yesterday. There's more special guests on the way. There's one-to-ones that I think you're going to enjoy as well. Hit the subscribe button and join us. Download the app, and don't forget we've got the website, and across all our social media, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, Kerry and Adam and Patrick are out there as reporters, young talented journalists bringing you all the latest breaking football news. Hopefully you're enjoying the content, and it's going to get bigger and better next year. From Ruffy, Tam and myself, Peter Martin, let's give you the answer to the quiz. Thank you very much for that, Ruffy.
Who's the two managers?
By the way, in 10 years it's the first time he's well done, Ruffy.
I'm going to take a guess at Ancelotti.
And there's another one, isn't there?
The other one?
Ranieri.
Ranieri?
What?
Ranieri? 100 Champions League wins?
Oh no, I thought you meant games, 100 Champions League games.
No, 100 Champions League wins. Pep Guardiola, if he wins tonight,
we'll
join the club.
We'll join the club.
3, Bayern. It's got to be a Bayern manager.
Go on then, Tam. 100 wins. You've got to have longevity. Come on, you two. You need a long, hard look.
Marcello Lippi?
No. By the way, Ancelotti was a great shout, Ruffy.
Alex Ferguson?
Ancelotti, Alex Ferguson. Good job you got that.
Can't believe you never get Alex Ferguson.
I know, you two.
Because he left you at the 86 World Cup, you hate him.
At least I got one there. I was there.
No, he wasn't, well, we know the other night he wasn't there.
Yeah, well, he was on holiday. Yeah, exactly.
I tell you I was at 3.
Yeah, don't bother. You have for the last 10 years and beyond. Thanks to Ruffy, and thanks to Big Babs from Pan's People on the right hand side here with the shorts. We'll see you tomorrow on the programme if you can join us, 4 o'clock on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.